Well, hello. I'm not alone.
Hi, friends.
Hey, he's here.
Some technical difficulties today, unfortunately, but welcome. My name is Matthew,
I am Keith.
and this is Dookie Shorts.
Yeah, it is.
Hell yeah. We're a little flustered just at the moment. Had some...
We were ready. We were ready. And then about 3 minutes before we were supposed to go live, we were no longer ready. There was an incident with a cat.
And then stepping on a power button.
And shutting everything down, which we spent 2 hours setting up. And every time we set it up, we have to reboot the computer. Every time we reboot the computer, we have to redo everything. We have to redo green screens. We have to redo the microphones. We have to redo
most things.
Not from start, but it's not ready.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very shiny. You guys don't know how much work this takes. I'm good right now, but I was shinier earlier.
He was ridiculously shiny
earlier.
Green
screen shine. Like you could see the green screen through my forehead.
Yeah, he was translucent.
It's going to get bad in the winter, guys. Just so be prepared.
Absolutely correct. Okay, so let's get into this episode. Today we are going to be talking about cryptids again.
Yeah.
So just kind of
Matthew
as a...
was being lazy and skipped his week.
Yeah,
no. That was always the plan was for me to do a few of them, and then Matthew's going to sneak one in now and again. So
at the end of this episode, we'll talk about just a little bit about what's
next?
coming up
I'm
next
excited
time.
Because I don't know. He's keeping it. I'm in the dark, so to speak.
I mean, you sort of know.
Yeah, I know. Never mind. It's all lies.
We had a conversation.
Shut up. They don't need to know that. They don't know our life.
Suspense.
But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I guess we're going to start off by saying we were planning on taking on any of the emails that got sent in, and
we did get one.
Woo!
Hell yeah!
Thank you, one person.
It was dark.
I'll take it. Thanks, Dark. But I think we're gonna just try to save a few of those up, and then we'll have a smaller episode where we just do some like question answers and
exactly.
We have a Facebook page now, so you can join us on the Facebook page where we will also post the photos that go along with the podcast.
Right. So one of our critiques, feedback, I guess, from last episode was...
Thanks.
We actually genuinely do appreciate the feedback and follow-up. We're sort of just getting into this.
We're winging it.
100%. So we set this up originally as a podcast. The whole concept was just a podcast. And then kind of on a whim, we changed it to video on Twitch.
Mainly because we want you guys to interact with us, so do that.
A lot, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. But what we were not really anticipating is using the visuals and explaining the visuals. So we set ourselves a goal today. We have a couple more pictures
we quadrupled the photos.
Yeah.
And then we're going to use those photos to fill in. We'll explain what we're looking at so you guys can kind of envision it in your mind, so to speak. But we'll also post those photos.
We're giving these people a lot of credit. I don't know if they deserve it just yet.
I just think I'm going to just be so good at explaining these photos pixel by pixel that there's no way they'll ever forget what I've told them.
Some of these pictures have... Remember that one that I blew up?
Oh, man, that thing was poster size. That was huge.
I don't think we want to talk about every pixel.
Not every pixel. Okay. We're going to talk at every third pixel. But yes, so we're going to explain the photos a little bit better. Also, we will post the photos on our Facebook page and probably on Discord.
That's my hope, yeah.
So that if you guys are listening to the podcast, you could log on there and actually see the photos too. But if you don't, you can just listen to us, and we're going to tell you what the photos are.
And we're going to do it spectacularly well.
We're going to do it okay. And but we do appreciate the feedback because obviously we don't know what we're doing, and
fucking winging it.
We really want you guys to interact with us, which is why we switched to this medium to begin with. So please send us information. Website is our Facebook page is the Dookie Shorts. It's just Facebook.com/Dookie Shorts, and then we have the email address.
Yeah, it's a Gmail account. It's Dookie Shorts ttv@gmail.com.
Get on there.
And then for Discord, I'll put links in the descriptions for everything. You guys should see it if you're on Twitch right now watching live. There's some links at the bottom you can click to get in.
Also, thanks to everybody who has reached out on Discord. Thanks for our guys that were on Twitch last time. It's cool to have some interaction. And then thanks to all the people that joined the Facebook page already. And we've actually had some fun little back and forth on it. I do have, so our Dookie Short scale, as we spoke of, has a 1 and a 13, but nothing else. So we are still looking for some of that. I did get one person, so we'll talk about that when we get to the scales. We have one possible entry somewhere in the
We're going to have to vote on
No, we can decide
Okay.
whatever the
This
hell
is-
we want.
we're
This
executive
is our
decision.
world. Everyone else is just
okay.
living in it. No, seriously, feel free. If you don't like it, let us know. If you do like it, let us know. If you want to send us your own email
we do
or
enjoy some
Facebook or
feedback.
Discord. We're reaching Twitter, I guess. I don't know. I'm not on there. If you want to reach me, don't go on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Matthew will tell me about it.
We do have a Twitter account. It's
Yeah, who knows? Who uses Twitter?
it's
What year
Dookie
is it?
Shorts at Dookie Shorts, I think.
We don't know.
Hold on, stand by.
Don't stand by. Just
Fuck
dance
it.
around.
Fuck it. We will
I
follow up with that
guarantee if you
later.
type Dookie Shorts
Yeah, you'll
into
find it.
Twitter, you will find us in the top 10. You don't have to search too far.
Top 20.
Top 20.
And our logo's super
See,
obvious.
Oh no! See now I'm on the wrong side now because remember we talked last time. I was like, "Hey, it's over here," and it was here, but we did a little swap-a-roo. And so now it's over
unintentionally,
here.
but,
Yeah, I mean I'm sitting in the same spot,
Right. But, I fixed things. And
which
when
you
I-
did.
when
We
I
have
fixed
two
them-
mics.
Yep. That's true. We do have two mics
You
now.
can hear me this time.
Theoretically, you guys can hear us really well now.
I mean, maybe,
jury's out. We'll see.
we'll find out.
Again, feedback. If you guys have any
Can't
thoughts
hear
on,
us.
yeah, that'd be really awkward if you just have like an hour-long
Just us
episode
moving
of
around.
gesticulating wildly. Exactly.
No, that's us. So we were pretending to move around and talk for those of you just listening during that giant dead space of air.
I don't think it was that big. It was
I don't
only
know,
a couple of
it's
seconds.
bigger. There were times in the last one because I listened to it and like we were talking, you would say something and I would kind of be like shaking my head a little bit and nodding, and then I'd say something. I was like, "That's a huge empty space of air. I should probably fill that with at least some
Fuck it.
hmms or something."
We'll figure it out. It's all good. Okay, let's get into
right.
today's episode.
If we have to.
We have Rocky and Champ.
Rocky and Champ. So we are going with two of the more famous aquatic cryptids this week. We went with two because one of them's pretty well known, and one of them's again a smaller local one that I wanted to throw in there. And I don't think Rocky is more local to us, and I don't think he would be interesting. Not interesting. There's not enough information to make a full podcast about him, so I thought it'd be fun to just sneak him in with Champ.
The interesting thing about Rocky is more the
lake itself,
the
history,
weird things going on in Rock Lake.
Yeah, that's true.
I Rocky itself, we did a little bit of research, but Rocky itself, we didn't touch a whole lot on.
The research is not going to be around Rocky itself. It's going to be more about the lake and
Right.
the area, and Rocky will be in there because we got to show Rocky some love.
And then also a little bit of kind of the wild history of pre-Columbus America.
Yeah, so we're gonna
and some of the
sneak
Native
some
American stuff.
Interesting factoids in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so we're going to start with Rocky because again, we got a little bit less information on him, but wanted to sneak him in. So like if you were to go to like a website and search for cryptids, they search by like territories and types of animals and humanoid. And so if you go to aquatic, there's only like 12 that are really considered cryptoids, which meaning like there's lots of legends out there. Right. And Rocky really falls under a legend and not so much a cryptid specifically.
And for aquatic, I would imagine the top is Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah,
like
Loch Ness
everybody
Monster
knows that.
Is at the top. And then the other one that was very close to that would have been the giant squid, which we also discussed last time exists. Because I got thrown under the bus last time. Couldn't think of any
It was a very enjoyable thump sound.
Which is funny because also we had talked about one on the episode. Yeah. And anyways, I have a whole bunch of them for today. We'll talk about that later. Screw you.
More foreshadowing. We're very good at this.
Jesus. So, yeah. So Champ, again, we'll get into Champ in a little bit, but let's go over Rock Lake and its infamous aquatic monster.
Rocky.
Do
you want to go to the slides?
Let's hit it.
Okay. I'm going to have to stand up.
He's going to go. You guys can just stare at me. He's just going to bump things. We got this great stream deck here that does not work at all, so we have to maneuver 3 feet away and reach stuff, which I think he's going to try to adjust to be able to reach from his seat. Is that the goal? Adjacent?
Yes. I believe I have it set up.
We'll see.
If it's not,
then
we'll fix it.
All right. Well, I mean, we'll
and
wing
by fix it, I mean, yeah, exactly correct. Okay. Right now we are showing Lake Mills, Wisconsin.
Lake Mills, Wisconsin.
which is where Rock Lake is.
Correct. And let's see. Let's get some stats for Rock Lake. Okay. Rock Lake is 1,365 acres. It has a maximum depth of 60 feet. And some of the biggest fish that you're going to find in there are going to be like walleye or northern pike. So these are good sized fish.
But
they are
giant.
not Rocky-sized fish.
Right.
I mean, Rocky, I think people have said he's 30 to 60 feet
Jeez.
long.
Holy shit.
But again, not a ton of information. There's been some sightings throughout the years. There's definitely some Native American legends around the area for a lot of things that we'll discuss, but for sightings as well. And the water's not that big. And to be honest, it's deeper now than it ever was.
Right.
So it's going to be tough to prove a 30 to 60 foot long creature in water that's only 60 feet deep.
That's fucking massive. And when we did our research yesterday, we watched a couple of YouTube episodes and just sort of poked around with on the internet some kind of shows and just pictures and research and articles and stuff. But the common theme for Rock Lake seems to be one, it's not huge. It's a fairly tame-sized lake. I mean, the stats you were saying is 60 feet deep. Yeah, which is not.
I mean, it's a good amount of water. If you want to go swimming, it's a decent amount of water.
But for something with, Loch Ness Monster type stuff hidden in it, that's pretty small.
Well, and the argument that science is always going to make is that you need at least 50 roughly of a creature for it to continue reproducing properly. So not only one of these random things, 50 of them, or 20 even, but 5. That'd be so big.
Or in that small of a lake to have that many, that large.
That people are barely seeing and have no evidence.
Right. So one of the biggest difficulties with Rock Lake seems to be the visibility of the water.
Yeah, it's murky.
And pretty much all the time, it seems to be very murky.
Yeah, I think
water.
what it is, there's a rainy season that happens in the fall, and that's the only time that the water's a little bit clearer, but it's still not. It's always murky. Sure. It's always murky.
Okay, just to kind of hammer it home, Lake Mills is like 20 miles east of Madison, Wisconsin. Just kind of talking it out for the people that can't see the map that we have up here. It's a small town, kind of southeast Wisconsin, between Madison and Chicago, or Madison, Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. And it does have an amazing brewery.
Yes.
For a small town. It has the brewery of Tyranina. I can never pronounce it properly.
That sounds about right. But the next picture is not that.
It is not. Oh no, we skipped ahead. My bad. Let's go to Rocky himself. So on the board here, if you can see it, and if you can't, I'll tell you, is a giant serpent style monster. So it's not like you would think of a dinosaur-esque, like Loch Ness. This is more like a giant snake, or the basilisk from Harry Potter would be what I would say this looks like. It's got water dripping from its mouth. It's got giant eyes. It's got like horns or spikes going down its vertebrae.
Let's just say if this is what you ran into, Dookie would be flowing
easily,
rapidly.
Yeah, and there would be nobody bringing me shorts because they'd be like, no, we're not coming.
No.
But again, what will make sense about this, though, if it were to be a creature that was in the water and it was like this, instead of the dinosaur style with a large body, this is more serpentine, it would be much smaller as far as like its body is concerned. It would be long, and it would be, maybe 3 feet in diameter. It would just be super long. And I could see something 30 to 60 feet that size if you had one in the water, maybe being hard to find. But again, you need several of them, I think, to.
So you're kind of viewing it more snake-like, where it's sort of thin, but
just there's no dorsal fin. There's no like.
It's almost like an eel.
Yes, like a giant eel or snake. Okay, is really the thought behind it. And the big thing about it, and what people have said and divers have said, is it's not so much that they've seen it, but they feel like it's there, and they think they're being watched, and they have an eerie feeling anytime they're in the water. And I think a lot of that is just because of the lake.
Yeah.
Like the lake is murky and creepy and relatively deep.
Yeah. And there are some known strange things in Rock Lake.
But before we get to that, let's go back. Let's go back to what we were talking about with the brewery, because I want to throw out a little bit of love for the local brewery there. So now on the screen, we've got a delicious looking beer. This one is called Rocky's Revenge. So what this brewery has done, because they're right near the water, is they have a lot of history with the area, and they try to bring a lot of that into their beers. And so, like, for instance, this is called Rocky's Revenge. There's a picture of a swamp monster or lake monster or snake-like monster on the cover, named after Rocky. They also have another one called Wrath of Rocky, and another one that's called Stone Teepee. And on the picture of that one, it has 3 stone-looking piles of rocks.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting into that next. But yeah, this is a great brewery, local.
Yeah.
Highly
Well, they're
recommend
really
checking them
leaning
out.
into the
local
local
lore.
stories. Yeah.
Absolutely, which I love.
It's fantastic,
I think
right?
that's great. I mean, not only are they making great beer, they're really like getting behind the town and their history, which is
Well,
a
and
lot of
you
fun.
know, it's another thing to kind of bring some tourism to the local area, and it leans into the whole the ambiance of the town and the stories, the creepy nature of the lake itself, and just
The history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
But now into the
lake itself.
the real weird things in the lake.
Yeah. So let's hit up that next slide. There she is. For those of you who can't see, do you want to explain this one, Matthew?
Yeah, so it's a picture of a scuba diver. If you kind of have the scale, it's about 4 or 5 times as big as the diver himself, herself, and it's a elongated pyramid.
Yeah, so a lot of people call it a teepee style pyramid.
Sure.
So instead of just a standard equal 4-sided, it's long on 2 sides and short on the other 2.
Right. And it appears to just be piles of rock, rubble, stacked, but
rocks.
very organized.
Extremely, yeah. And if you look at the size, the diver in the photo is a third the size of the pyramid. In fact, I think the pyramid is said. So what it comes down to is divers have gone into this water in the 1900s. Let's start it from the top.
Sure.
1900s, the Wilson brothers were duck hunting on the lake.
Right.
And when they they shot some ducks. They're like, cool. Let's paddle our way out of here. And I mentioned I'm saying paddle. It's the 1900s. Right. They went to paddle out of there, and when they put their oar in the water, they hit rock right below the boat. And they're in 30 feet of water. Again, the lake is about 60 feet deep now, but it was much shallower 100 years ago, 120 years ago. So they saw, and again, this is what I was talking about. It was a clear time of year. They had just had rainfall. Right. The water was clear. They could see a stone mass below them. Shortly after that, the town found out about it. They all went out. Several young men swam down and touched the rocks and could kind of feel out that it looked like this elongated box, kind of.
Yeah.
The next day, the whole town went out, and the water had become murky again, and they couldn't find the structure.
Fuck.
So they really researched it, but again, 1900s, they don't have really anything to get down into the water.
There's no sonar down there. There's
They're not scuba diving. It doesn't exist yet. So what happened next is a few years later, a guy named Max Knoll went out there, and he's one of the earlier inventors of scuba. It's not scuba itself. He invented a precursor to scuba where they could have oxygen and go underwater.
Right.
And he actually went down there and found 3 pyramids. The ones that he found were different than these 3. He found 3 pyramids that were cone-shaped, stacked rock, but he said they looked like man-made stone rock, upside-down ice cream cones. Huge.
Okay. So like tipped over on the top, ice cream cones.
Yeah, so pointy at the top.
Pointy,
But instead of being
but cylindrical, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these were very large, but the other ones were said to be 100 feet long by about 20 or 30 feet wide.
Right.
And they were in a different part of the lake. So that's one of the things they've had trouble pinpointing exactly where these different structures are. But basically, there's a lot of different kinds of stone structures under the water. But over the years, they've had a hard time figuring out. So Max Knoll, who went down there, he planned to go back a few years later, ended up dying in a car accident, and never was able to go back. But in the 80s, they actually went, well, I take it back. In the 60s, they had scuba divers go down there. They found them as well. They came back up. That's where these drawings are coming from.
Gotcha.
So this drawing came from the divers that went down in the 1960s, and they are drawing what they saw.
Right.
Then in the 1980s, they actually had people go out with side scanning sonar, and they proved that there are structures down there. It's just that because the lake is so murky all the time, they can't get a good pinpoint on. They believe them from the structures to be man-made. They do not think they're natural.
Right. I mean, it would be impossible is a strong word to use, but it seems like this sort of formation would not be a natural occurrence.
Exactly. Especially if it's just
right.
round stacked
and
stone.
It's not there's no moving water like the Rock Lake. From my understanding, I think it has one tributary and one outlet. Mm-hmm. So the water is fairly stagnant in the lake. It's sort of like a tame, contained area.
This isn't a big river running through here. We're not pushing rock around. Now, what I would like to add to that aspect of is, like we said, when they found this, the water was much shallower. They could see the rock at the top. Now the water is much deeper, but also they were oaring through the water in the 1900s.
Right.
Well, now we're 120 years later, and this lake is a recreational lake.
Yeah, and strongly, there's a lot of boat traffic.
So I imagine that while these structures are still there, what they're saying in the 80s, they've had a hard time finding the structures the size of the ones they talked about, but they are finding shorter structures, and there's two possibilities for that. One is the lake has gotten much deeper, and the sediment at the bottom is probably feet and feet deep. Yeah. So it might be that these structures have sunk, or that the muck has come up and covered up the majority of them, because they've still found the structures on sonar, and the people have been diving. Why don't you switch to the next slide? The people that have been diving have seen these, which basically what we're looking at now is two photos of stacked round adjacent stones, but only maybe 3 or 4 feet high. Right. So are these the tops of the pyramids? Or
so are you saying that maybe the structures themselves are deeper, but the unmoving water has allowed sediment to come out and kind of fill in around the structure, and it's getting buried? That's
what I'm thinking. Okay. But I've got a hot take on this too. So what I think another possibility is, because if you look at this, they're kind of round and hollow. Like it looks like you can get inside. So I'm also wondering if we've got 100 years of boat traffic on this thing, heavily used, would the waters get enough movement to maybe have disturbed the structures and crumbled?
Sure.
Because they also have lots of video of just rock everywhere.
Right, just
like if you
strewn about.
If you had just decimated these buildings and now they're spread out over 100 or hundreds of feet in each direction, going from 100 feet to 300 feet. Right. Well, now there's just rubble everywhere because you've got all these skiers and fishermen and boat traffic.
Yeah. Just disturbing the water.
I think that's a good possibility. I do think that you'd have enough muck that maybe it's buried too. I wouldn't argue that.
Well, it'd be super unfortunate if that's what actually ended up happening.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we can't.
I mean, short of draining the lake, no one's ever going to know anyways. I mean, with LiDAR nowadays, they do have water-based LiDAR now, so that would help. But I think with all the murk, it still would be hard. But with the side scanning sonar, they did see the structures. So I think it's just a cool idea. But do you want to tell them a little bit more about where we think those structures came from?
Yeah. So everything I'm going to say from this point forward is super hypothetical, based on a lot of archaeological digs that happened
100 years worth of archaeological digs in the area.
Right. Like started in the 1930s-ish, 1920s, 1930s is when the archaeological digs started. And the connection between, it's called the Mississippian culture, which is sort of the precursor to the all of the Native American tribes and cultures that we are more familiar with, such as the Iroquois and the all the ones that people are more familiar with. Mm-hmm. It's basically thought of as sort of the precursor, the starter civilization to all those.
Yeah.
but the hypothetical link is from them to these structures in the lake. It's really kind of just throwing it out there, kind of guesswork based on
the
understanding of what the Mississippian people did do, and sort of what we're looking at in the water.
Well,
right?
and how close it is to
Right.
the structures that they
Right.
had, because there is a civilization in Lake Mills that we know came from the Mississippians, which is in the same town
Right.
as these structures.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes walk away kind of thing.
And if you were to go back in time far enough to when their civilization started, the water we know was much shallower.
Right. So it does seem like it's a strong possibility, but it's still
There's
hard.
no exact-
It's hard to
because
like
they-
link them necessarily.
Because they can't get to the structures in the water to do an archaeological dig there, there'll be no way to say, definitely these two things came together. But they do know that this society was here. It's right on the mouth of the water. They definitely would have used the water for agriculture.
Right.
So the link is very tight, but there is no proof.
Right. Right. So what we pulled up is a picture of
It's a mound.
yeah, it's a kind of a pyramid shaped dirt mound,
An earth.
earthen mound. That's I'm drawing a blank on the name of the town. I don't know if you remember. It's Aslan.
Asland.
Okay. And there's a whole preserved
Atsland. With a T.
Atsland. There's a whole preserved kind of, I'm going to use community in finger quotes, very, it's kind of a outlined
City,
yeah,
so to speak.
yeah, kind of like a fort, but primitive. And its proximity to the lake is what kind of draws this connection between the two civilization, the civilization and the water, and then
The structures
rocky.
in the water.
Right. So it's just a very interesting theory. I'm just going to say theory because it's hard to kind of pinpoint it at all.
Absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to say about?
I mean, the big thing there's one thing we're going to throw out there, and again, there's no hard evidence of this, but there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of proof that the peoples went through here. But there's a lot of people, if you were to go to this area, they're going to say that the Mississippians were what we would now modern day say are Aztecs.
So the theory
Theory.
is that the Mississippians. So the archaeological proof, at least from what we kind of understood from the research that we did, using research way too liberally.
We're using it liberally. Research based off other people's research.
Correct.
But scientists, not like Bob on the internet.
Right, exactly. The thought process is that the Mississippian culture ended, and then about 100 years later, the Aztec culture kind of sprung up.
But it sprung up like it had moved
Right.
across the country towards Nevada.
Yeah, kind of the Southwest, the U.S.
Yeah.
Southwest.
And there's a map history over 200 years, starting at that point,
Right.
going south down to Mexico.
Right. And it's super interesting visual evidence, I guess, of some of the maps from the I forget what the
1300s to the 1600s?
something like that.
Or was
yeah.
it 1600s to the 1800s?
They're all maps that Europeans made.
Yes.
But the maps themselves had evidence, written into the maps of
I think it's
kind
like a homeland of the Aztecs.
yeah, kind of historical reference. And that particular, those on the map, it showed that the homeland of the Aztecs, the ancestral homeland of the Aztecs, was somewhere in the vicinity of the Great Salt Lake.
The Great Salt Lake.
So kind of in that area.
Yeah.
And
But that was 100 years after the Mississippians.
Right, correct.
So
yeah.
the theory is, and again, not proof, but the theory is because of the culture that the Mississippians had, the way they set up these mounds and created their, I'm going to say, town.
Yeah.
It's sectioned off into a hierarchy.
Right.
It's sectioned off in a pyramid style, and there's proof of sacrifice.
Right.
So they have a lot of similarities to what we now know as the Aztecs.
Right. Exactly. And is it coincidence? I guess.
Or do they all just have a common ancestor along the way is what I think. That's the way I would take it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying these people are these people, but I'm saying they maybe learned and traveled over hundreds of years, slowly but surely working their way down. And there's a lot of proof to show that they have a lot of similar ancestry.
Right. That's
We
exactly
are not
how I
saying
would
they
have.
are. It's not Bob lived here and then Bob moved his family over here, but maybe Bob's great-great-grandfather or grandson, eventually moved across to the Midwest and then slowly down.
Yeah. And, there's always the oral tradition aspect of Native American cultures. And a lot of the storytelling sort of leads you to kind of go in this direction where it's sort of, forefathers and all that kind of thing migrated and were instructed by their gods to move.
Well, yeah, I think the Aztecs were told to head south until they saw an eagle eating a serpent on top of a cactus.
Right.
Like that's what they were told to do. That would make sense. They just kept going south until they saw that, and then they created their city. And I mean, they use that on the Mexican flag to this day.
Yeah, correct.
That's the symbol on the Mexican flag, or Mexico flag.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really interesting. I highly recommend looking up more information.
Yeah.
If you think this is cool, it could way more in depth. We just kind of wanted to touch on Rocky and the lake, but really what you end up finding out is like the whole thought process is Rocky is like an ancestral like myth that protects the pyramids. I'm
Almost
using
like a
air
guardian
quotes,
or something,
or guardian of the pyramids.
Yeah.
And to this day, anybody who goes into the lake and does scuba diving or takes a mini sub, they feel creepy. And I'm sure they do. It's murky. It's nasty water.
Exactly.
It's got a lot of movement from all the traffic up above. So,
and it's sort of just you hear the stories.
They're in your head,
right? And
anytime you see structures underwater, anytime you're in a boat and you go, like, even if I'm on a lake, like we live near a river that is flooded, and there are structures under there, and there are areas you can drive by in the boat, and like you got to be careful because your anchor will hit the top of a house, like
or a barn silo or something.
That's creepy.
Yeah,
it just is. Anytime there's things underwater that shouldn't be underwater, it makes you feel weird.
Yes.
And so I think that's what it is. People know there's something in the water, and it makes you feel off. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think of good old Rocky? So
just based on the size and characteristics of the lake, I don't feel convinced that there is a 60-foot or a, what do we say? Like
30 to 60 feet is what has been said.
Serpentine animal in... No.
I love the story.
Right.
I think the area is rich with history and some really cool stuff. And I think the lake is really neat. And there's probably some, like, I would love to get more information about that. And I'd love somebody to go in there and do more digging into that. Because it's a cool area. It's a town that really gets behind it, much like the Hodag.
Right.
But maybe not quite to that extent.
Sure.
But still, I mean, it's a well-known in the area. And it's a cool lake with a cool history.
Right.
And I thought it'd be worth bringing up on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fun sort of primer for
Champ.
Exactly. And we've been talking about cryptids now for the first episode was the Hodag, and this is we had Rocky, and now we're going to talk about a couple of cryptids that got elevated. They got promoted.
Yeah. So I got thrown under the bus.
Yes,
last time.
You're welcome.
Because I happened to mention there are cryptids out there that were once thought to be cryptids, but now science says, no, these exist. Deal with it.
Right.
And so
fuck you.
Matthew's like, well, name one. And I was like, well, I'm not ready for that right now, even though we did discuss the giant squid, which is one of those. So we did talk about it in the last episode.
Yeah, but you weren't like aware of it.
Ready? I mean, I was aware of it, but I wasn't like on the spot ready. I was just making like an off-the-cuff remark, like, hey, some of these do exist. Well, you know what? I got 10 of them.
Whoa.
So take that, sir.
I'm about to get schooled.
So we're going to go through them. We have a photo of a few of them, but let's wait a second because I don't think we have a photo of the first one because I think you guys are going to all be like, that's not a cryptid. And I'll be like, yeah, it is.
Actually.
So the first one on my list is a little creature you guys might all know as the kangaroo. That's right. The kangaroo.
Hold on. The kangaroo
was once thought to be a cryptid.
What the fuck?
Well, first off, it's on this weird island that nobody wants to go
to.
Weird
island that's...
We're like, let's put prisoners over there. So
Australia.
We're going
for those
way back.
That aren't
I mean, and if you're from Australia, we love you.
Hey, what's
you
up,
guys
guys?
are awesome.
Y'all are
and
beautiful.
Send us an email. So we're going way back on this one. Like I kind of tried to put these in order. So like we've known about these for quite a while. Okay. But in 1429.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's old.
1429 is the first sighting of one. Jeez. And nobody believed the guy.
Yeah.
And then
it's a two-legged tripod that leans on its tail that beats the shit out of people.
More ripped than I am.
Yeah.
And boxes and then drowns people or other animals in the water while punching it in the face.
Yeah, that would be hard to believe.
I'd be like, yeah, definitely. Let's go grab one of those. Because we can make some money downtown with two of those things in a small pool. So, and then in 1629, they caught one and brought it back overseas, but it died on the way. And so the body was in such bad condition, again, 1629,
they couldn't preserve it.
Months to bring it over.
Right.
They still didn't believe him. Right. So it wasn't until 1770 that there was proof because people were on the island
in numbers.
In numbers, and there was so many sightings that they couldn't deny it. But I mean, think of the creature. Like a kangaroo is a weird creature.
It certainly is fucking weird.
It stuffs its babies in a little pouch.
Yeah.
It's got boxing gloves for hands.
Right.
That turn into little baby hands.
And it's like
it's got
big old ears that
jumps around.
Yeah, hops.
And it can go hops.
Yeah.
Like a delicious beer.
And it's got a fucking built-in kickstand.
Yeah. Which you can jump off of.
Fucking
like,
cool.
Leans back and he's like,
whoa. You almost died. He almost destroyed the fucking set.
Not only did I almost die, folks, if they're just listening, I leaned back to like hang on my tail, realized I don't have a tail. And it almost took me out, and then I grabbed the table, and the table went like 4 inches toward me, and thankfully Matthew stepped in. He's like, I got this. He put one small paw on the table, and he's like, no worries.
Nay. I say nay.
That was terrifying. Anyways,
I saw your light flash before your eyes. It's like Lion King.
Don't sue us, Disney.
Do not do that again.
Listen, it's a sheet. I'd be fine. But I would have taken everything.
If everybody saw this shit show of a set that we have because of the green screen,
listen, it's rough. A very nice room. Look at all there's trees and spooky stuff in the back. Anyway,
kangaroos.
I survived. So kangaroos, check. That's one.
Okay, one.
Take it home. Put it in a box. Let's go with number 2.
I don't think
you can't put ideas in a box.
Was an idea? Or are you actually putting the kangaroo in a box?
Yeah, boxing match.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Number 2. I also don't have a photo because you guys are going to know what this is. It's a little thing called the platypus.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
The
you tell
platypus?
me you wouldn't believe a platypus existed?
I still don't think they exist.
There's proof. Ever since 1798, there's been proof.
I call bullshit. So I call bullshit on everything platypusy.
Here's the cool thing. Whoa, yikes. This is 28 and under is not good for you guys. So the cool thing about the platypus is when they did catch it and bring it back, it again was dead, didn't make it, but it was in good shape. Okay. The scientists took it and tore it apart trying to find stitching because they didn't believe
they thought it was
somebody had stitched like the bill onto another animal.
Okay.
But yeah, no, after 1798, they proved its existence.
Platypus eye.
Platypi?
There you go.
Sounds better than what you said.
Does it though?
This is an adult show.
It really is. So platypi
exist.
Were a cryptid.
They were a cryptid.
Confirmed to exist.
They were not only a cryptid that confirmed to exist, they were like really, really fought against. Like the scientific community was like, no, this can't be possible.
I'm still there.
I don't believe you even with the body. You have to show me a live one. So
are you saying that people have seen living ones?
I mean, somebody has after 1798. I've never seen a living one, to be fair.
Are they in the zoo? Can you see a platypus in the zoo?
You know what?
I don't know the answer to this.
I've been to the zoo many times, but it's a small zoo, so I don't think they have platypus at the zoo I go to.
Okay.
Hit me up if you've seen a platypus.
I want responses in my inbox.
I want photos of you with a platypus.
Correct.
Or maybe video so I can see it moving around.
That'd be nice. And I want hold a newspaper up with a date.
I'm okay taking this off the list is what I'm saying. You prove to me it exists. Otherwise, I might pull this off the list.
We need evidence.
All right. You ready for the next one?
Third.
I also do not have a photo because you guys
son of a bitch.
may have heard of what I like to call a gorilla.
What?
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Gorilla was once on the cryptid list. Not once, but twice. There are two different. So here's the thing. 1847, they finally decided that gorillas exist, but they still didn't believe that mountain gorillas exist.
Okay.
So they found gorillas, and they're like, these cool gorillas.
All right.
But they guys were like, no, there's like these weird, crazy giant gorillas. So there was a guy named Andrew Battle who recounted seeing human-like monsters visiting his campsite every morning to check out what was going on with the fire. And it took another, I guess that 1902, 55 years before they believed that the mountain gorilla actually existed, even though they had found gorillas.
Do you know where this was? Like what mountains or what?
Why are you throwing me on the bus all the time?
There was
You're supposed
unintentional.
to do some research here.
I didn't know this was on the list.
Listen, that's fair.
I need a list before I can do research.
You
on
don't
it.
need it. Just guess.
Okay.
Just guess. You got pictures.
I'm pretty sure the mountain gorilla is native to.
Congo?
Oh, that's a much better guess. I was going to say like the Appalachian Trail or something.
I mean, I know regular gorillas are in the Congo. I assume mountain gorillas are higher up in the Congo, and it wasn't so much that we didn't believe they existed, but we were too lazy to go up there.
Well, and impenetrable jungle with mosquitoes that kill everybody.
Lazy.
Until we invented mosquito nets,
Repellent.
there was a lot
Those
of
gorillas
death.
can stay cryptic. I don't need to know they.
There was a shocking amount of death.
All right, we're ready for 4?
4.
All right, we got a picture, peeps. All right, there it is for those of you who can see it. If you can't
That's a nice
see
ass.
it, this is a copia? A copi? It is spelled O-K-A-P-I. It is also known as the forest giraffe. So what we're looking at here
It's fucking wild looking.
is kind of...
It's got stripes like a zebra.
Well, here it is. It's a blend of a zebra, a donkey, a deer, and an antelope. So put that in your head. It kind of has like deer, antelope-y legs.
Yeah.
It's got a zebra butt.
Yep. And it's got like a horn looking thing on the top. It sort of reminds you like the giraffe bit thing.
Yeah,
the little bumps.
and actually the closest genetic link is a giraffe, even though it has all these other features. And the early Europeans from the 18th century called it an African unicorn because of its little dangly.
So even with this photographic proof, I'm thinking this is
putting
bullshit.
this up with the platypus. Not just like there's literally hundreds of photos of it. This was actually not until 1901, so we've broken the 20th century mark.
This has
on
to
this
be
one.
this has to be like in the middle of Africa or something, right?
You know what? I didn't do a lot, but it said African unicorn,
Yeah,
so that makes sense. The one thing I
like
didn't
the interior where nobody.
I figured out what they were and when they were found, and
And
maybe a
not how
little
to-
antidote.
correct. Yep.
No, antidote is something you take if you have poison. What's the? I found a little thing to say about it. Anecdote. I was so close. I knew I was wrong. Does that count for something?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
So yeah, it's from Africa somewhere.
Yes.
But that thing's weird looking and very cool. But
yeah,
it does have a rather long neck for the size of its body, so I can kind of see that aspect of it too. But I think
go ahead and
but
say
they
it's
said
unique.
genetically, it's closest to a giraffe. All right,
Very
5, baby.
Go ahead.
No, we don't have a picture of 5.
God damn it, Keith.
5 is when we brought this one up in the last episode too. It's a Komodo dragon.
Okay.
So those are also thought to be cryptids because they were only on basically one island, not one island, but on a set of islands originally. So there's stories of a giant lizard on islands in Indonesia were thought to be laughed at by respectable scientists.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I just want to point out, like all these things, scientists of the day said, no, you're an idiot for even thinking that, but they all exist.
Right.
So I'm going to keep going back to that on the show about how people are like, you're an idiot for that.
I guess it really puts things into context that just because we think that we know
something
everything
right now.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have
Yeah,
all of the facts lined up and
I'm
everything explored. Yeah.
I love when I do research, I try to find people that are archaeologists or scientists. Like I want their information, but I also think that a lot of those people think in a way of because I'm educated in this, I know it all, and it's like no, you've been educated to learn to be open-minded
Right.
and know that you could be wrong is what you really need to be doing.
Right.
But a lot of guys don't think that way.
Yeah.
Even with other people, their peers, not me or you, we don't know shit.
Right.
But like other people, their peers they're laughing at them, and it's like, no, these things exist.
Right.
So
100%.
So one of the cool anecdotes about the Komodo dragon is that it is the creature, because it was brought to a zoo in, I think, New York. It inspired Mercian C. Cooper to write King Kong.
Okay.
So without this cryptid, you would not have the wonderful story and several movies that are King Kong. You would have thought it would have been Godzilla, but no, it was King Kong.
Interesting. I would not have put those two together, but
it's just the idea of a giant creature
yeah.
that sparked the idea, and then literary license.
Right.
Be like, fuck lizards, we're gonna go with a monkey because they throw poop.
Yeah, it's a lot more entertaining that way.
All right, ready for another photo, my good man? Because I don't remember what number we're on, and it doesn't matter.
I think 7, 8, something like that.
7, I think.
These things are fucking cute and also terrifying.
Okay, so what we have here is another marsupial to the list, and it is a word I can't pronounce. You want to try it?
Nope.
You looked it up.
I did, but I also forgot. I don't have it in front of me.
It's Bondagazi.
Sure.
No, it was Bene Gesserit. It's Bondajezu. Bondajezu.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave, the Bene Gesserits. Okay. Bondajezu, it's how I remembered it. So it's a marsupial. It's a lot like several other marsupials, but the big difference between this one is instead of being a plant eater, it's a meat eater. So it's an aggressive marsupial. Though he looks cute. So this kind of looks like a furry giant rat / otter.
Yeah, and kind of has like panda features, like super fluffy paws.
Yeah,
like
dark brown fur with light brown on the paws. The face is very feline almost.
Yeah.
It's got kind of pointy feline ears, similar feline type of mouth. It's got giant claws.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't fuck with it.
It looks kind of like the claws are kind of like a koala or something almost. But it also, because it's a marsupial, it carries its young in a little pouch. In this case, kind of the opposite. So like a kangaroo, it's upright. So like it's standing up and stuffing babies in its tummy. This is the opposite. This is like if it's walking on all fours, it like goes in from behind. It's weird. Look, you can't. We didn't pick that fake picture, but feel free to look it up. It's spelled Bondegezou. Do what you want with that. But one of the cool things about this one, another anecdote, if you will, is it is the ancestral. It's one of the ancestral spirits of the Monai people of Papua New Guinea. So they knew it existed, even though science didn't.
Right. And yeah, they when we were looking it up, it showed a picture like the interior of Papua New Guinea as the location of these things. And again, it's super inaccessible jungle, mountainous terrain. Like I kind of get that it's hard to discover these kind of things.
Absolutely. Well, so let's go back. I didn't even say the Komodo dragon was the Okapi was 1901. Mm-hmm. The Komodo dragon wasn't until 1910.
Damn.
So we're getting to be just over 100 years.
Yeah.
This one was 1980.
What the
And it's 1980s. Like it could have been 85.
Yeah.
Could have been 89. Like it just says 1980s that it was discovered. So like that's 40 years ago. Like
we might have discovered this in my lifetime.
Yeah, it was discovered in my lifetime.
Yes, but I'm younger than you.
It was definitely discovered in my lifetime, give or take.
Listen, I was going to let you just sort of.
No, I'm old.
Sure.
I'm old. We're good. We're fine. I'll live with it. Not as long as you probably, but
correct.
All right, we got one more, which again,
well, two.
We don't. Well, yeah, we don't have a picture of this one. I didn't forget about that one. Oh no, we do have a picture of that one. I'm sorry. Bring it up, sir. We talked about not doing a picture because we thought it'd be hard to find scale.
Right.
Because most of the time when you see a giant squid, which we talked about in the last one, they're in the water.
Right.
So like, is it the size of my hand? Is it the size of the Empire State Building? I don't know how big it is.
You can
And
find
it's
a lot
called
of
the Empire State Building, just around this Sears Tower. Go ahead.
Those are two
different
buildings.
things, but I still get mad about it. What do they call it?
Empire State Building in New York.
That's in New York. But what do they call this? They call it the
It's
the Sears Tower, but they changed the name to some bullshit now. I don't know. We'll move on. I don't like it when they change the name of buildings.
Correct. or when they demote Pluto.
Listen, Pluto
Is number 9 in my heart.
That's fair. I want a T-shirt that says, somebody wants to make a T-shirt for us that says Pluto's number 9 in my heart. I'll buy it.
That'd be fantastic.
If you don't make it, I'll make it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have T-shirts for sale real soon.
Correct.
All right. So 2004, we found a dead giant squid.
Just on the beach.
No. Ship found it.
Oh, okay.
100%. It was a Chinese trawler found it.
Yep, okay.
It got caught in its nets.
Got it.
So they had been talking about, this had been talked about for thousand years, hundreds and hundreds of years for sure. Nobody believed it existed.
Like it's the origin of the Kraken, right?
Yes,
I mean, that's
absolutely. I mean, and for years we have found whales with claw marks through the whole thing, so we know something's out there. But that wasn't enough for science. So thanks, science. 2004 said, "Fuck you." We found one, but it was dead.
Yeah.
Then in 2006 they found a live one. So the dead one they found was about 24 feet, which is huge.
Yeah.
The one in this picture is 12.
12
feet.
maybe 10
But
to
look
12
at it.
feet.
That thing would take a dude out.
Yeah, so like the body, the main structure of the squid is the same size as a person
guy.
that's laying next to it, and probably 5 feet, 6 feet, something like that. So,
but then the
tentacles are just
the
they're
head
sort
and
of
the
folded
tentacles
up.
go almost twice that distance, and that's like this one's dead in the photo, so it's probably not even stretched out.
I should hope it's dead. I
It
don't
is tied
think
down.
I'd.
Oh no, it's not tied. It's just
I don't
cut up.
think I'd
It's
want
dead.
to lay.
That dude's taking a nap next to it, and he feels comfortable. He's got his arms out, and so he's laying on his back, and his arms are up, and his arms are still only at like what I would consider the head of the squid, and then the legs of the squid just go way back. So, and I think this again, 12 feet maybe, and the dead one they found was 24. The live one they found was 43 feet long. 43 feet long.
That's fucking insane. So that's,
No, thank you.
That's 5 stories tall.
Well, and like if you look at this photo, it's also wider than the guy.
Yeah.
So the body mass is wider than the man laying next to it, and this one's 12 feet. So think 4 times bigger than this.
I'm gonna say nope.
That would pull a boat out. Like there's like all these like oral histories of like boats getting attacked by kraken, which is a giant squid or giant octopus.
Right.
And yeah, it could.
Yeah.
That thing right there could take down a small boat if it's so inclined to do so. But yeah, 43 feet? No, thank you.
That's no.
That's a hard pass for me.
I'm gonna no.
My nose is itchy today. I apologize for those of you watching me scratch my nose, and for those of you listening, I'm scratching my nose a lot. I don't know what the deal is. It's very dry.
I mean, it was fucking 30.
It was 30 degrees today.
30 degrees this morning. Nice. That was a good pop.
Thanks. I'm gonna pour it in here because Starbucks isn't sending me any cash for product
That's
placement.
fair. Yeah, Starbucks. If you're watching,
Reach out.
I
Send me
can
that
be
check.
bought.
I'm cheap.
100% bought.
I'm cheap.
Yeah, just give me some
Send me a
free.
case of send me a $25 gift card, like whatever. I'm easy. All right, so that is the cryptids.
You have one more.
No. That one's different. That was the cryptids I'm throwing in your face.
Oh.
Those are cryptids. Those are things that exist. We know they exist. Platypus aside. This
Jury's
one's
still out on that one.
a little bit different.
Okay.
So we're going to pull up one more that I just thought would be interesting to talk about. What is that?
It's a fucking
It's a weird cat, dog, zebra thing.
cat, dog, zebra.
So what this is, and
What
it's a
in the
word I
fuck-
can't, it's
what
a
in the
thylacine.
Phyllis. Okay.
Thylacine. And so it was a large meat-eating marsupial again, because Australia is a weird place.
Yeah. 100%.
And it has a long, stiff tail, dark stripes on its rump, and a pouch similar to other marsupials like koalas or kangaroos, like we spoke of, or whatever that other weird thing was that I can't pronounce. But it looks kind of like a dog or a giant cat, but it's got the tail's like a hard whip of a tail. Yeah, it's got zebra stripes going down it on the back, but not on the front.
So
which
like
seems
it
to be
super
pretty common.
reminds me of sort of like a coyote almost, but with cat-like features.
Yeah,
like,
it's got a lot of cat-like features, which I think it seems like most of the marsupials do, except for the
which
kangaroo.
is weird.
Yeah, and I don't know where the pouch is. So I'm kind of
This
thinking
one's
it's the same as
this
the
one's
other
in
one.
the
In
up
the
the butt.
backside a little bit again. That's weird. All right, marsupials, Australia, get back to us with whatever's going on down there, down under.
Or don't. That is
That's where that comes from.
for fuck's fuck's sake.
It's not that they're lower than the rest of us. It's where they keep their kids in the down under.
I hope there are people from Australia
I
listening
hope they
so that
are.
they can
Please call me.
just like eye roll aggressively.
Feel free to
at you.
eye roll and then tweet us because
Yes.
I won't listen.
I want to receive tweets of the eye rolls at that comment.
Just Australian eye rolls. Just FYI, my
Would they be upside down?
My daughter's favorite accent is Australian, so you guys got something going for you.
Well, okay, sure, yep.
So the cool thing about this, so it's a little bit different. This was considered to be a cryptid for a long time, but then they like exploded, and there were so many of them that they were killing off all of the like farm
Livestock,
whatever, chickens or whatever weird random animals are in Australia.
They probably raised kangaroos.
Maybe they raised lizards. Or I don't know what is giant tarantulas. I don't know. So, but whatever it was, this thing was killing them, and so because it was killing them all, they were like, the government's like, kill these things. Yeah. So all the farmers started killing them off. Well, it got to the point where they almost didn't exist anymore. The last known one to die in the wild was in 1932. And then they still had them in zoos or captivity. Yeah. And the last one in captivity died in 1936, just a couple years later. But in the 1960s, they found more in the wild. So for 30 years, they existed.
So hold on. This went from cryptid to confirmed to killed off to possibly back
to possibly cryptid again. So, and then they found some. Those died off in the 60s. But since then, it's now considered a cryptid again because they've been sightings since the 1980s. So this animal has gone back and forth from being a cryptid to being proven. Now, is it really a cryptid anymore? No, because it is a proven species. Right. But because we think they're gone, it kind of falls under that cryptid again.
Gotcha. So sort of using a loose definition, but
yeah. So that's why I kind of wanted to put it separate. Yeah. It's not a cryptid. We know they exist, but they're believed to be extinct. But there's been several sightings in Australia that maybe they're still around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my list. Oh, in your face.
So these were all confirmed. I'm going to use that word real loosely because platypus can fuck right off. These are confirmed. So they were cryptids. Now they are confirmed.
Not only were they cryptids, animals. They were cryptids that people in the scientific community literally laughed other people out of the building, saying there's no way these
Which is understandable
exist.
When you're talking about platypus.
But only the platypus.
That is a
maybe
fucking...
that octopi thing. That thing's weird too.
That's true.
I know it's not pronounced octopi. That's how it's spelled.
These things are fucking weird. Okay.
So I think it's time to get into Champ, which is he is the champ of this episode.
We're probably like 45 minutes into this episode.
We're gonna be over an hour today. We're doing a little bit better this time, short of all the technical difficulties. Listen, I want to say first off, Matthew's doing an amazing job, even though we're having all these difficulties, and he's got an asshole of a cat.
Pump the brakes.
Amazing job. Because if I was doing this, it would just be my laptop with the camera on it and whatever speakers built in.
I've seen it. I've seen him try to do this.
This is my stand.
Yeah, that's true.
I did have a green screen.
I like how you're pointing at nothing because there's a green screen.
You can't see my hands. It's here.
There's a green screen behind him. So he's pointing at nothingness.
Well, I'm pointing at blue terror trees, which don't exist in real life because there's a green screen.
Are you saying the backdrop is not real?
It's real somewhere. Looks like a place cryptids would live.
I don't think it is real somewhere.
Right. I think it's real, and then this is an artist rendition of what was there.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know it's true.
Negative.
Anyways, let's talk about Champ. You ready? Yikes. What is that you have there?
Throwback.
Oh, snap. It's the blue ribbon. Ra would be happy.
The best.
Part of waking up. Is blue ribbon in your
I could see this for breakfast beer.
God.
Breakfast beer.
Why do you hate yourself?
Listen, I'm a Wisconsinite now.
That's not what that means. There's a lot of terrible beer here in Wisconsin. There's a lot of good beer here in Wisconsin, but Miller's made here too.
Hit PBR.
Hit me up.
Hit me up.
Remember when I said that Starbucks could send me a gift card? Leinenkugel. I mean,
that's a real good beer.
That is a good beer. I mean, I wouldn't say it's real good beer. They're made by Miller now, but.
Yeah,
they used to be a really good beer. Yeah. I still want to go do a tour there, though.
It was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I did that last week.
Without me, I got a cup though.
You're fucking welcome.
It's very nice, thank you. But yeah, no, Matthew did a great job setting all this stuff up. So,
thank you.
some props to Matthew on that, even though half his shit doesn't work.
I'd say it's well over half of my stuff doesn't work anymore.
This is only 20%. 20% of your shit doesn't work. We have cameras that work. We have 2 mics that work. That's a step in the right direction.
That's true.
We got lights.
We could have
green screens.
We could have fixed the mics last week or 2 weeks ago, but I'm an idiot.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of things to keep track of.
It's true. It's true. Okay, what are we doing, Champ?
We're going to talk about Champ. You want to lay down the facts about the lake?
I guess I can do that.
Some of the facts about
I
it?
can.
I'll fill in where need be.
That's going to be what's going to happen
works.
here. You're going to do the physical characteristics. I've got some interesting.
Well, I'll start with the physical. I'll start with the physical curious. So when we talked about Rock Lake, it's small.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a tiny lake, but it's small.
Compared to Lake Champlain,
yeah,
it is tiny.
Lake Champlain, first off, is on the border of New York State and Vermont. Mm-hmm. It is the 6th largest of the Great Lakes in the U.S. Now, I want to put that in perspective. Yeah. The 4 Great Lakes are huge. 5? Is it the 5 Great Lakes?
Yes,
yeah, 5 Great Lakes are huge. This is kind of connected.
Holmes, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior.
Yeah,
Holmes.
Yeah.
That's that
I'm glad
8th
you
grade,
got it.
8th grade
I forgot about
Earth science coming back for you.
I forgot about one of them. So this one is technically connected by a river system. And so there are probably lakes bigger than this in the U.S. besides the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But,
so like springing to mind, I think Lake Tahoe is much deeper.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's bigger, but it's much deeper. It's like
but because this is attached, it's considered the 6th largest of the Great Lakes, so i.e. the smallest. Well, there's probably a bunch of tiny ones, but it's big. So what we're going to say is it is over 400 feet deep. Mm-hmm. So unlike the 60 foot of the last one, 400 feet deep could hold...
Which is fuck off deep.
Yeah, real deep. Also, 107 miles long. 107 miles. How many of you guys ran a mile in high school?
Like, think about how fucking far that is.
It's so far. Like, it's an hour and a half in a car. Like it's
yeah, and that's
60
an
miles an hour.
Speed.
Yeah,
like
so, and 14 miles wide.
Yeah.
So like that's not a short. This is a big lake.
This is a big fucking lake.
It's not big compared to the rest of the
I mean
Great Lakes.
Those other fucking Great Lakes are so
Those
goddamn
are basically
gigantic.
We just don't like to use the word sea in the United States. If we were in Europe, these would be seas.
Right. Yeah, it's a good thing that they're freshwater because that would be
because there's terrifying shit in there to begin with. We'll get into that in another episode. But so at least this one is a large enough body of water that some shit could be in this water.
Yes.
You want to talk about the Samuel?
Yes. So in 1609, Samuel de Champlain discovered the lake and then named it after himself, like the biggest douchebag I've ever known.
He's French.
Get
at me, French people.
Historically, Lake Champlain was very important as a navigable waterway between upstate New York and Montreal, Canada. So kind of goes directly north-south.
I mean, part of it's in Canada, technically. Yeah. I said it was between Vermont and New York State, but that's the left and right. The top of it goes up into Canada.
Yeah. And the waterway, the river, it flows north into the St. Lawrence waterway. So it does sort of like meander directly past Montreal.
Yeah.
So it was like a perfect route for folks to get in from Canada to upstate New York.
Yeah, for trading and
exactly. It became a little bit of conquering here and there. It became a very popular tourist attraction around 1945. That was kind of right after World War II. So everybody kind of came back and was really
travel
exactly.
Yeah,
and the cars had really taken off at that point, and there was a lot
of
roadways. Yep,
boats too. I mean, the waterway itself became much busier.
And Vermont residents compose over 70% of the residents on the shores of Lake Champlain. Burlington, Vermont, which is Vermont's largest city, is actually on the east coast of Lake Champlain, about halfway up.
Oh, okay.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a population center of about 60,000 people right up halfway up Lake Champlain.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge body of water, and like that's the thing. Like it's such a big body of water that there's a city that big on it, and you don't even
it's
notice it.
Yeah, and it's not even like halfway up. There's shit tons of water both ways.
Still going.
And just kind of an interesting tidbit. At 450 million years old, Lake Champlain hosts the world's oldest fossil reef.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So there's some interesting little weird shit going on in Lake Champlain.
And speaking of fossils, they actually found fossils of a whale in Lake Champlain, which they thought was a horse originally, but after uncovering the whole thing, they found it to be a extinct whale. Okay. That is the closest related relative is the killer whale.
Okay.
So this is definitely connected to saltwater somewhere down the line.
Yeah, so the theory, I guess, if you want to call it that, is back when the glaciers, the ice caps were much further south, they put enough weight on the crust that it pushed the crust down and caused an inflow of seawater.
Yeah.
It was really kind of brackish, so it was fresh water from the melting glaciers, and then also it's the seawater kind of mixing in. So
but part of that just leaned to the fact that larger creatures were in this water at one point in time,
exactly.
so they could hold a whale, so to speak. And I would say a whale is equal in size to the type of creature Champ would be.
Right. So
the water is deep, the water is big, and it has had large creatures in it before. So we just want to start off in that wheelhouse. Another interesting tidbit is in the early 18th century, the French explorers that went there, they were actually, the gentleman you said, the de Champlain, was actually the first European to actually claim to have seen Champ.
Okay.
Or the lake monster.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there were definitely Native American legends prior to that. They told of a serpent in the water. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but they told him about that, and then he said that he actually had seen a serpent in the water. So let's take a look. Do we have Champ on there next?
We have
a
artist rendition.
But it's actually an artist rendition of a plesiosaur?
Plesiosaur. Yeah. So these are, I guess, confirmed is probably a closer word to use of something that has existed in the past.
These existed. We're not questioning that. This is not a cryptid. This is I'm going to say the word dinosaur, even though I'm sure it falls under a different archetype. If you were to be, you're welcome.
Big word.
Let's save that one. It cost me $1, but it definitely fell into pre-man standards, whatever one it fell under. I don't know.
We're talking millions of years, probably.
So this is what a lot of people claim to have seen. Yeah. This type of a creature with a long neck and a snake-like head or a dragon-like head, and with a hump in its back. So very much like the Loch Ness Monster style.
Right.
So this is just to give you an idea. This is a swimming dinosaur. That's what it's a long serpent. It's got a real long neck with a snake-like head. It's got flappers.
Kind of like a big body, but all that would be underwater.
Yeah. Unlike Champ, which we discussed would be more like a giant snake, this creature actually has a larger body with fins. Rocky, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Unlike Rocky. That is a large snake or basilisk, one might say. So, let's see. So, what they said it looks like during the sightings, which there's been a ton of, it looks like a large horned serpent or a giant snake or this. This is the one that gets said the most, and just the fact that it has horns on its head is very common. Most people say that it's 25 to 35 feet long, so the same or smaller than what people have said Rocky is. So 400-foot deep lake, 30-foot monster. Yeah, this math works out for me.
Right, this is at least in the realm of possible in my mind.
Absolutely. I think by 1992, there were over 180 sightings with approximately 600 people claiming to have seen Champ. Okay. And that was in the early 90s.
And there is a photo.
There is a photo that was taken in the 80s, I believe, by a woman, which I didn't get her name because you're not going to remember it anyways. So it was a woman and her husband and their kids were in the water. And what they said was this creature came out of the water. Now, what they thought was it was a large fish. They thought a fish had stuck its head out of the water, some type of fish. But then the head just kept going up. And she said it rose up out of the water about 5 or 6 feet.
Which is wild when you think about
is
it.
Nuts.
Yeah.
And then a hump formed next to it out of the water as if it's the back.
Gotcha.
So she screamed to her husband. The husband saw it as well. He screamed for the kids to get out of the water. She said she fell to her knees, pulled out her Kodak camera, which she had on her because she was taking pictures of them in the
kids
water
and stuff. Yeah.
and took this photo. So as you can see, it looks on the left-hand side, it looks like a Nessie style photo. The neck is coming up out of the water and looking to the right. And then right where the neck goes into the water, there's a back hump coming out of the water. Right. So it very much is reminiscent of Nessie photos that I've seen as well. The difference is this was a Kodak photo. They've had multiple scientific communities and like I think the national water, I can't think of the name of it. There's a scientific group. Yep. They've all checked the photo and the photo is not doctored at all. So we know that this photo is an accurate photo.
This photo was actually taken by the lady of something.
Whatever's in this photo is in the photo, and it's a real photo. So the argument then, if you want to switch to the next slide, is that people think it might be wood. So in this photo,
driftwood,
a artist rendition of a piece of driftwood sticking out of the water that is kind of Y-shaped and looks like a head and neck. It's very specifically like that'd be a weird looking tree, but it could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see a tree sort of these characteristics. You know, if it was the other way up, so the stuff that's sticking up out of the water is the roots. You can definitely see that as sort of like the
gnarled,
kind of the weird misshapen characteristics that wood can have. Like the roots can have definitely weird shapes.
I would not argue that I have seen wood in water. Sticking up and it's weird looking. Like we live near a river and we drive around in boats and there's wood sticking out and you're like, oh man, is there something in the water? And it's like, no, it's a tree. This is a very specific shaped piece of wood. But
it is, like you said, an artist's rendition
of the photo,
of a counterfactual of the photo.
Yeah.
So like it's a very specific look that they're going for.
Yeah. But I'm not going to discount that theory. That's a theory. But if you go with the testimony of the family, they saw it rise up out of the water. And the other thing they said they saw was when a boat then drove by, it turned its head, it looked at the noise, and then went under. Wood's not going to go back under the... If wood came up to the top and is floating, it might bob around a little bit, but it's not going to shoot back into the water.
Right. It's not going to just disappear like that.
Yeah.
Unless it was like... Yeah, I mean, you can generate a theory in your mind that would do that, but, I mean, you're making shit up. You're just making shit up.
Work in your favor. Yeah. So I think this photo was great. I think it definitely. So it's not
the photo.
This photo's hot garbage of the wood. I think the photo of the Nessie style creature coming out of the water with the Kodak. I think it's a very intriguing photo. Yep. I'm not saying it's proof positive, but I put a little bit of weight on it with you when you put the story of the woman who's known. She's been in the newspaper, like she's done some interviews. She hasn't made a bunch of money on it or anything. It's not like she didn't create the hodag and make a fortune selling tickets of a stuffed dog and stuff. So like I put some more weight onto this story because of that, not just a random photo that we have no history for. That being said, there's hundreds of other stories. One of the big ones is there's an argument of like, okay, they have to have like 50 of them in the lake or 30 or 40 to keep living for a long time. But some of these creatures last over 100 years. I mean, there's creatures in the water right now that last over 100 years all the time. Turtles live for freaking ever. Like, so I don't think there needs to be as many of them as 50, but they might need 10. So I think this lake is big enough to pull that off.
Yep.
There's also an argument to be said that they are land creatures as well.
Oh.
So there's been several sightings from people who live on the lake that have seen these come in out of the water.
Interesting.
And they've been different colors. So they've seen green ones and they've seen brown ones. And the brown ones are smaller than the green ones. So if they could leave the water too and have somewhere on land to hide as well, that just makes it even harder to...
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking specifically for something in the water and they don't have to be in the water, then that makes your mission much more difficult.
Much harder, which is one of the Loch Ness Monster issues. Like they always think, oh, we haven't found anything. Well, if it's a land creature too, or if there's caves underwater that it can go into,
right?
There's no guarantee you're going to see them when you're looking. Not to mention another real cool fact about these guys, and I'm going to throw this. I want to do some more research on the Loch Ness Monster too, but I feel like if this creature is alive and can do what I'm about to say, and the Loch Ness Monster could do the same thing, it would be very helpful. There's a woman that lives on the lake who is a professional animal recorder. So they record animal sounds to learn how they communicate. That's what she does for a living. She's a scientist. That's what she does. She just happens to live on the lake here. She found recordings on the water in 3 totally different areas at the same time of sonar sounds of these creatures talking to each other through sonar. Not saying it's these creatures, but it's no known creature known to science that's making these noises underwater. So if they could use sonar, they're not going to be anywhere near you because they're going to know when a boat's coming. They're going to know when there's people moving on the land near the water. Yeah. So that would give them a huge edge on being hidden.
Yeah. Well, again, just how deep this lake is.
And, well, that by itself would do it. But if you really didn't want to be seen and you had the ability to use sonar underwater, you would be so easy to stay. I mean, sound travels underwater way further than it travels in regular air.
Right. That's super interesting. The coming out of the water thing is hard for me because of how populous the area is.
But is the whole thing populated? I didn't do enough research to know. I mean, 100 and whatever miles long.
20 something miles long.
And if it knows where people are living, like, is it going to come out of the water by their house on a regular basis, or is it going to go?
I mean, we are talking, hundreds of thousands of people live on the shores of Lake Champlain. So
that's true.
I mean, there are probably less populated areas, but there's a main road that goes all the way up both shores. So it just seems like that would be hard to explain away, I guess.
You'd think there'd be more sightings.
Yeah.
There are. There's a shit ton of sightings. I mean, so that's the other side of the coin. Like, there are people that say they see this all the time. Yeah. Why is there no more video evidence? It's especially if it's coming out of the water. Right. So I agree. I totally see what you're saying there.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like UFOs and
well, UFOs have a whole nother reason why there's no photo evidence, but we'll talk about that on another episode. Okay. Get at me.
Gray man. Oh, goody.
That's just one of them. Yeah. But they all have technologies that can fuck up our fucking photos. No question. No, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, tune in next time.
Not next time.
Soon. A time down the road.
Soon. I just want to throw in a little bit more information about Champ. In the public, so much like the Hodag when we talked about last week, they've kind of taken over. After this photo came out, it did become a huge thing. Like I said, she didn't go out and make a bunch of money on it, but it became huge.
Yeah, it was in magazines and stuff. Like it became like a real hot kind of.
Well, it was a reason for people to start. They started traveling there. They started selling things with Champ on it. Or Lake Monster on it. The U.S. Loch Ness Monster. Yeah.
And there's a lot of like sports teams and stuff.
There's a local baseball team, like a semi-pro baseball team, Vermont Lake Monsters, it's called. They have a Champ Day. The city has a Champ Day on the first Saturday of every August in the village of Port Henry, which is on the lake. There's several establishments, including a car wash, use the logo. There are people making money on it. Absolutely. I mean, there's reason to perpetuate the story, for sure. But there's also literally hundreds of sightings all the time. Right. There's actually a movie coming out in 2022. It's in production right now that I guess it'll probably come out in 2023 called Lucy and the Lake Monster, about a girl and her grandfather that are trying to capture a photo of that. And that's coming out right now. And that's based off of this lake monster. So that's pretty cool.
Interesting. Well, also, I expect them to pay us royalties
for promoting them. Correct, yeah, you send me a check. I'll take a percentage.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be like 0.5%.
No, we'll split 0.5%.
Yeah.
One of the cool things is Champ is actually protected by law on both sides of Lake Champlain.
I read this. It's wild.
There's been four different times the legislation has been changed to say that he's considered a protected animal. He's also considered endangered. Like, if he is real and you fuck with him, you're screwed. Because I know they just did it.
Take a picture and walk away.
Yeah. Run away.
That's closer.
It's just one of those things where, like, they do it for publicity, but it is a law. Right. So be careful. You don't want to hit him with your motor while you're driving across the lake.
Can you imagine? Oh, God.
Oh, my God, you proved it exists. And also jail. Jail, sorry.
Very jail. On both sides of the lake.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I want to add one more option to this, which I believe we have a photo of. Yep. Did you have anything else you want to say before we dig into that theory?
I think we've run the course on this one.
Yeah. I want to say before we say this theory, I feel pretty good about Champ. I definitely don't feel good about Rocky. I think Rocky is a great myth. I think it's like a legend that is perpetuated, and I love it. Yeah. But I think this one has more potential.
Yeah, I can definitely see something.
I don't think it's a dinosaur. Right. Could be a huge snake. Like, I mean...
Or even a huge sturgeon.
Sturgeon. Absolutely. So let's hit that picture. So what we have here is a fucking ridiculous sized fish. Yes. So this is a lake sturgeon.
Massive fucking
What's the size on this bad boy?
Well, this isn't this one in particular, but the biggest sturgeon ever caught in the wild was 406 pounds. Fucking massive. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. just under 15 and a half feet long.
It's like a shark.
Yeah. And estimated to be over 150 years old.
That's nuts.
A fucking sturgeon. This is a fish. These are like known.
Yeah, and this that's a female, because the males don't get that big and they don't live as long. But the females get enormous. Yeah. And the other thing, which we didn't bring it on here, but there's also catfish in this. Like, catfish also get freaking, they could swallow you. They're huge. Yeah. But yeah, no.
You guys ever seen those catfishing videos? Where
they're like, stick your arm in there, they bite your arm. Those are small ones. Yeah. So this thing has got to be 8 feet long.
Probably.
It's 8 feet long. It's got spikes down its back.
It's a freshwater sturgeon that's been caught, and there's two gentlemen posing with it, and
the gentlemen are not tiny.
Yeah, and the fish dwarfs both these guys. Yeah. Like, it's probably as long as both of them laying down.
The fin on the back has got to be 3 feet long. Like, it's huge. And
fucking massive.
This thing has spikes down its back. Yeah. Sounds familiar, does it not? Yeah. So, I mean, and so I want to bring back the lady who took the photo. She thought originally it was a sturgeon, because people know about sturgeons. They're not like unknown. Everyone who lives on the lake knows that there's ridiculous sized sturgeon in the water. So when the head came out, she thought it was a sturgeon. But when the head raised 5 or 6 feet out of the water, sturgeon don't do that. Even if it's large, it can't raise its head out of the water. Right. So this is a possibility, for sure.
And so the one that we were talking about, the 406-pound sturgeon, we've got a picture of what that was. So this is...
And I'm not going to lie, this one looks smaller than the one in the last photo. It's huge. Yeah. They're both huge, but that other one almost looks bigger.
I mean, it's twice the size of these people that are standing with it.
But those are children.
Yeah, but they're big children.
They're big. But it's a huge fucking fish. So sturgeon's huge. Look it up.
Fish are fucking
They're enormous. So I could see somebody in a boat and having this thing swim by and be like, there's a fucking monster in this lake. Yeah, no, there's a bunch of them. There's a shit ton.
Could you imagine being in the fucking water with this thing?
But I also want to point out, like, if you had something the size of Champ swimming around and it would need a food source, you think it's got enough food? Look at the size of this thing. This would feed it for a couple of days, probably.
Interesting.
I want to throw one more thing out there that we didn't even talk about.
We're going off script.
Going off script. So I lived in Florida for a while. And there's some big fucking snakes in Florida. Huge.
Anacondas.
Yeah, anacondas. The whole time I lived in Florida, I was terrified. I don't like snakes. No. Snakes, raccoons. Fuck both of them. Okay? I don't want anything to do with either of them.
Not to mention alligators and...
You know what? I was by alligators all the time. They don't bother me. I can see them. I'm not swimming. I'm not going in the water. But like, so I went fishing a lot.
I've seen alligators do things you don't want to be around them for.
Well, yeah, but I know. Here's the difference. So we went fishing on a regular basis. We'd go on this dock that went out 150 feet into the water.
Okay.
And there was alligators all over the place. Yeah, crocodiles are the ones from far away. Alligators. And they're big. And we'd throw stuff on. They'd eat them. They're moving around. And it was kind of the point where, like, you got to keep an eye on them, because if they swam up to shore, they could block you off from getting off the deck. So you had to keep an eye on them. Yeah. But they were generally out in the water. We were on the Space Coast near NASA. Okay. And there's like these rivers, like there's kind of islands and there's rivers.
Bayous.
Yeah. So we would go out there and fish. They'd be out there. In fact, one time I caught a stingray, and I thought it was the biggest fish I'd ever caught in my life.
Yeah.
I'm reeling and reeling. I've never caught anything that put up this much of fun. I'm like, this is a huge fish. It's ocean. It's going to be huge. And a stingray came out of the water. I'm like, no, it just has an enormous flat body fighting current. So it wasn't that big at all. But a freaking alligator came up and ate it off my line, which was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. I was like, I just caught, and this was right after Irving died.
Okay.
So I was like, I was kind of like, I was going to cut my line. Like, I don't want anything to do with this thing, but he took care of it for me. And it was awesome. I was like, this is life. I love this. So anyways,
There's always a bigger fish.
I want to point out that I wasn't terrified of alligators. You have to respect them. Like you have to be smart. You have to know what's going on. I'm not going to jump in the water with them, but I wasn't terrified to be there. We swam it, but I'm on a dock. The dock has got, 5-foot railing, big wood solid railing around it, and we're up out of the water a couple of feet. These alligators are not getting up here.
Right.
They'd have to it'd have to be an alligator pyramid to get up by me, and I'd have plenty of time to get the fuck out.
You hope.
So it was cool, but I wasn't scared of them. Mm-hmm. I don't like snakes. You know why? Because snakes can go anywhere, anytime. There's nothing stopping those fucking things.
Eat the fuck out of you.
Yeah, especially an anaconda. They're huge, or a boa constrictor of any kind. Like.
Is it anacondas in Florida? It's not. It's
a constrictor.
Yep.
I don't remember which kind it is.
Yep.
Then those actually the ones we were worried about. There was like a black snake down there that was large. It was like 8 feet and 4 inches in diameter or something. And big and poisonous. Like that's the one we really worried about. But the whole time I was down there, we had a swimming pool on the property. I went swimming every day. It was the best part about living in Florida. It's the only good part about living in Florida.
Always warm enough to.
I hated it there, but the pool was great. Yeah. And so I would always go down the pool, and no one is ever there because it's Florida and people that live there don't appreciate it, I guess. And I would check the pool before I got in because snakes go in the water and alligators go in the water. And there was a fence around the pool, but snakes, they don't give a fuck. It might keep an alligator out, but it's not going to keep a snake out. Right. So I'd always check. Never saw one. Saw the little black snakes that I stayed away from occasionally, but never saw a big constrictor. Kind of never once. Yeah. The last day we lived there, we were all packed up, and I was kind of just waiting. We were like, my wife was doing some final running around, and so I'm like, I'm going to go down. We're on a lake. We're on Turkey Lake. Yeah. If anyone wants to look it up. I'm like, I've never gone down there. I've fished on the rivers, but I've never been by the lake. So I'm like, I'm going to go down there. And again, it had it's a dock, but it went 500, 600 feet out into the water. Jesus. It kind of like zigzagged, and it had little sitting areas along the way. So it went way out into this lake because there's no like boat traffic or anything. Yeah, it was very much like a boardwalk. It was like 6 feet wide. Yeah. It was quite a structure. But again, this is no boat lake, so it's just you could fish from this structure or walk out. And at the very end, there was a big gazebo. So I walked out there. I'm like, I'm just going to go check this out because I've never walked down here. So I walked down there. I'm sitting at the gazebo. I'm just kind of hanging out, looking out over the water. It's getting late. The sun's going. I'm like, this is cool. Yeah. I'm like, I wonder if there's alligators out here or something. I'm kind of always looking for that. And I see a head pop up out of the water. And I was like, there's fucking alligators out here. I should have come down here and watched this sooner. So I'm just watching. And I'm looking at the back of the head, and I kind of see it kind of up, and I see another little bump behind it, kind of like what we saw there, where it's like there was a hump behind it. And then I saw like 4 more humps behind it.
So it's a snake.
It was a fucking enormous snake. And suddenly I went from being like, oh, I'm cool if it's an alligator. He can't get up here to like, I need to leave right now and slowly because I don't think he's seen me because his head was facing away from me.
Okay.
And I was like, this is the biggest snake I've ever seen. It had, I don't know how long it was, 20 feet long. It was huge. It was enormous because I just kept seeing these ripples. Yeah. So like I see something like that and go, is there just like a giant snake in the water too? Because that's possible. The only real reason I say no is because it's cold there.
Yeah.
And generally snakes, like that's why they're in Florida because they wouldn't make it like in Wisconsin here or up. I mean, that's even further north than we are. Yeah. But I see something like that and go, that head came up out of the water like I thought it was something, and then it kept going up, and I was like, whoa. And a snake's body is strong enough where it can lift chunks, like 3-4 feet of it out. And that was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life, and I just kind of slowly backed pretty far back, and then I turned around and jetted after I was kind of like out of view.
Why didn't you take a picture?
I didn't. First off, this was my phone was a flip phone, like the old. This is 15 years ago or something. The technology wasn't there.
Right.
If I had a Kodak, I could have taken a picture with a Kodak because that would have been better technology than the flip phone.
Right.
The flip phone was the worst device ever because like every photo I have of my children when they were first born are garbage because they're like 7 pixels.
Right. 7 by 7.
And everybody used it like, oh, I got a picture of it. And it only looked okay on the phone. The moment you tried to download that to a computer, it's so small. But anyways, I see something like that and having had an experience like that, I go, if I saw this thing come up out of the water, I would know it's not a fucking log.
Right.
You're not going
right.
to... Yeah,
Maybe
looking at the picture,
exactly
I'm like, oh, that
is,
picture could be anything. If I was standing there, I could tell you it wasn't a log. There's no way I'd be like, maybe that's a fucking... No, it's not a log. I know what a log looks like.
But then again, if you took a picture of it, a snapshot in history, people could second guess you all day long and say, yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
That looks like it could be a log. So
I
you just have your story along with your picture like this lady did.
But when I see somebody who's not trying to make money off of it, they're just like, and she even said, she goes, oh, I didn't have a photo. I never would have told anybody.
Yeah.
That's what she said. She goes, I wouldn't have even told anybody, even if I believed it, because nobody would believe me. She goes, I only told people because I had his photo.
Right.
But even then, people will pick that apart because if you don't have the evidence right here in front of you, you will always have naysayers.
Fucking 4K HD video.
And they won't even believe that. I believe the Kodak camera better than a 40H video because you could fuck with that better than you can a Kodak picture.
If a platypus showed up on the table, I'd still say, what the fuck is that?
I'm going to look for
real.
stitches. I'm with the guy from 1480 looking for stitching.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, that is a weird animal.
Yes.
That's a weird animal for sure. I think so. I know we said the sturgeon was like 15 feet, like the biggest sturgeon was 50 feet. The largest sturgeon ever caught in that lake is only 7 feet.
Gotcha.
Which again is taller than me.
Yeah.
That's a huge fish. It's 100. It was 310 pounds and just shy. It was like 6 foot 11 inches or something.
Gotcha.
But again, that's the biggest one they've ever caught. That doesn't mean it's the biggest one ever found. And the larger the fish, generally the deeper they're going to stay in the water. Because they know they're old. They know it's safer. They're not going up by the surface. Same reason we didn't see giant squid for hundreds of years because the cat is going near the computer and we're all scared that we might get shut off again.
If we suddenly turn off
the cat,
that's why
also responsible.
He's
again.
he's going to the window.
All right,
he'll be fine.
I think we've
kind of explained away the rest of the cryptids that we had today.
I don't think we explained them away. I think we explained away Rocky.
Right.
So let's do the Dookie scale.
Yep.
I want some people to call in with the Dookie scale here. All right. I want to know what you guys think. I also still need help coming up with new scale options.
Just for everybody's reference, the Dookie scale is 1 to 13 for no reason in particular. That's just the number that we came up with.
That's right. Number 1 is?
1 is a mild toot.
Moist.
Oh,
it's a moist toot.
A moist toot.
And number 13
is no questions asked.
Call to your best friend for new pants.
Okay. So that would be catastrophic.
That's catastrophic.
That's
a no questions asked, and you're using it on I need pants.
Right.
You could have murdered somebody, but no, that's how bad the Dookie short situation is. But we did get one Facebook post with a recommendation. I'm not saying we're going to use it.
Yep.
But it is dad riding a roller coaster and sharding.
Okay.
I think if we do use that, it's going to be in the 9 range because there is poop in your pants.
So would the shart be uncontained? That's my biggest question here. So if it's fully contained within the pants, I think it could be kind of lower on the scale.
We have to figure out where the physicality, where we're going from staining to loose movement.
Correct.
And maybe we don't know yet.
Right.
But
in my mind, I think out of the body...
I'm thinking anything out of the body
is like a 4.
4 or 5. Yeah.
So a shark,
like if you saw
I could
the
see like a
hodag,
7.
You're going to be so you said 6 with a hodag, I said 5.
Right.
I'm not at shart level, but we're going to probably toss those underwear.
Yeah.
Like those are not going to make it.
They've been spoiled.
Unless you're wearing whitey tighties and you're using bleach, which we're adults, so we're not doing that. Not the bleach
They're
part,
disposable.
the whitey tighty part. So I'm okay with. I'm going to hold on to this one because we don't have any other ones, but I'm not going to quite place it yet. I think it's going to be.
It's a fantastic visual.
Yeah, I'm down. With
I like it.
I can see they like wee and then he's scooting. He's scooting out of the.
And there's people behind him like,
what's that? Why is this guy going so slow? And maybe he's making some fart sounds with every step.
Yep. I like it.
You ever seen that video of the old lady in church, like farting every time she takes a step on it? It's like toot, 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 toot. So kind of putting it in that range. But I'm thinking, let's say 8. This is worse than the Hodag for sure.
Absolutely.
And again, like I said, the Hodag might drop down after we've seen some of these other ones.
Well, and that's going to, like, the first one, you don't really have anything to put it up against.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
There are some terrifying things in this world that are known, and much more terrifying things that are possible, and even more terrifying things that people have thought of.
Absolutely.
So, and if we're putting it up against those things, then
I just want to point out that when we talked about the Hodag last week, we kept saying like the raccoon. I want to say that what I was talking about was the tenacity of the raccoon, but realistically, it's about the size of a dog. Like it was quite a bit bigger than a raccoon. So that's
a correction.
Yeah, just a correction from last week, 2 weeks ago. So with that scale of the 1 through 13, with that 9, 8, 7 in there, let's start with Rocky. If Rocky was,
if it existed,
which we don't think,
we agree that the likelihood
it's an excellent legend or myth,
but very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
But based on the picture that we had of evidence, like if I was standing or swimming next to that thing and it's popped
35
its head out of the
long.
water, and that would be immediate shardage.
That might be the
everywhere.
dad on the roller coaster. To be that's fair. So it's more than the Hodag.
Yes,
it's quite a bit bigger than the Hodag.
Yeah.
I think any of the water ones are going to be high on that list because you automatically get that fear of water,
right?
And they tend to be huge. So like, what are you going to do? Paddle away from it?
Right.
Like,
it's going to be able to outswim.
It's going to be able.
Unless you're on a boat that is structurally intact and capable of handling its business, then I could 100% see this being really not pleasant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm probably going to give it like a 9.
Yeah, I think that's good. And so we're going to throw 9 as the dad riding roller coaster shark.
I'm okay with that. Yeah,
for now.
Yeah.
We might adjust, but I'm on board. So I'm at a 9 for that as well. I think that works for me. It's definitely much scarier than the Hodag.
Yeah.
Again, when you're in water, I like on land with Hodag. I got fisticuffs. I could kick it.
Right.
I could grab a rock and throw it if I needed to.
Run away and like have a chance maybe, but like
climb a tree. Like you're in the water, you're screwed.
You're in the beast's native habitat and out of yours.
Well, I was gonna say you're in the beast habitat no matter what, but water is you have no chance in that habitat. Humans are not designed for it.
Exactly.
So that bumps it up on the scale. Now, if I saw it on land, maybe it's closer to.
So like you're on land and it's in the water?
Yeah. So if I'm on land and I saw it, which I really think is how we should play this. I'm either in a large boat or I'm on land.
So you're not at immediate danger of it just... Okay.
If that's the case, then I'm at like a 3.
Yeah, I was going to say like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think so. What about Champ?
So Champ definitely is much more possible on the scale. So I can 100% see something like that existing.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm seeing something serpentine, kind of in general, more serpent than the dinosaur thing.
I think so too. I'm definitely leaning towards more of a snake style.
Yeah. And again, if we're in the situation where we're safely out of its reach and I see it, kind of like the lady that took the picture.
Yeah.
I would react strongly,
much like she did.
Yeah. Especially if
get the kids out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. Kids are in the water.
I'm going to take a picture.
Exactly. You're not going to immediately run away. So probably in the 3, 4, 5, I'm going to go with a 5 again.
Yeah.
So I'd say Rocky and Champ are the same when it comes to the fear factor. Rocky is nowhere near as likely as Champ is.
And because of that, I'd put Champ higher on the scale only because I believe him to exist more than I do Rocky. So 5, 6. But either one, if you were in the water with either one and they did exist,
immediate shortage.
Yeah,
Like,
I hope I have a cell phone with me in the water that's waterproof because I got to call somebody for some Dookie in the shorts situation. But yeah, I'd say 5-6 on this one. Slightly more terrifying than the Hodag just because of the situation, but most likely I would be somewhere safer to see it.
that's an interesting point. So like the Hodag probably can jump up on whatever platform you're on. So like equal situation. If you're standing on dry land and the Hodag's coming at you and it's real,
Yeah,
that'd be more terrifying probably.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, we want to hear your thoughts on how you would react. So please send us an email. Again, the email is dookieshortstv@gmail.com.
Or you can message us on the Facebook page.
Facebook, or hop on the Discord chat server. We have a special channel for each episode. You can leave us a comment, feedback, thoughts, reviews. We're going to post all of the pictures we used in this episode, both on Facebook and on the Discord, so that we can.
So you can visualize them if you're listening to the podcast.
Exactly, as a reference point. We do have some feedback. There's a couple of, so Dark and Oscar were both watching.
Oh, nice.
At least for some
Hey, guys.
some amount of time. Dark had a couple of comments. This pretty early on the podcast, talking about not knowing anything about the Mississippians. You should look into that stuff more. Yeah, that was
Very interesting. It was the most interesting part of all of our
the Rocky stuff. That
sure.
was by far the most interesting stuff, especially the theoretical possible connection between them, the underwater structures, and the Aztecs. Like that sort of trifecta of information was really, really interesting.
It was compelling.
Yeah.
It was very compelling, and there's a lot of good actual proof towards some of the information, and a lot of leaps that are understandably made, even though they're not.
And there's a lot of
necessarily
stuff that
proof
we
on
didn't talk about, like the maize which is corn.
They tell you to
and-
follow the corn.
I
And,
mean, there's a lot of information that we just sort of left out because, for one, we don't really know enough about it to talk with any kind
and
of.
it wasn't really what
certainty.
this episode was about. It was just we wanted to touch on it because it was an interesting fact that went along with Rocky.
Right. When we were talking about the mountain gorillas, Dark said silverbacks are terrifying. So silverback gorillas,
Absolutely.
like there are so many just shockingly outrageous animals that we do know exist that could tear us limb from limb.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mountain gorillas specifically, the silverbacks are. Yeah, I would that would be a Dookie short situation.
Yeah, 100%, and they're authentic. They're 100% real. Like they're in the
And we're
zoo
thought
and
not to be for a long time.
Right. Oscar said Noah when you were talking about the oceanographic organization.
Oh, Noah.
So I think he called it
National
Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration.
That is
whatever, something
that is what it was. That was one of them. There's two, and that was one of them.
So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Oscar. Glissa was watching. He said heart.
Hey,
So
heart to you too.
we certainly appreciate you guys. We will be.
You want to tell them what the next
Yes.
episode is going to be about? The next episode.
So 2 weeks time, we're gonna be doing a episode. So this one's gonna be my first sort of
At their
led. So far, Keith's been doing most of the sort of research, development, all that kind of stuff on our topics. My first one is actually going to be the SL1 disaster, which is
I do know about that one.
Yeah, so it was like a nuclear meltdown of a experimental reactor
Here in the U.S.
Yep, in the Idaho National Labs up near Idaho Falls.
Yeah.
This is going to be a bit of an experiment because most of what we've been talking about is a lot more hypothetically kind of ground, whereas this one is just a wild series of events that culminated in some just crazy catastrophic events, which
Like I
would
said,
make you Dookie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole point of this is to discuss things that are strange and unusual, and some of those things are real. And this is going to be one of those scientific fringe things that became 100% real and just became terrifying.
Right.
And I think it'll be a fun episode to talk about.
Absolutely. So that's what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks' time. I guess I could pull up the
date.
let's see, what is the date there? That's going to be the 22nd.
22nd. Now we
22nd,
are
probably around 6:30 again.
Yeah.
We'll update everybody on the Facebook group and on Discord of any changes to our expected time, or if we have to change the date. We are definitely sort of
fine tuning.
Yeah.
our
we're playing it loose
edition,
with the dates and times, just because life really is busy,
Yeah.
especially this time of the year. So
Absolutely.
we do appreciate everybody understanding that we may have to change things. Like I said, we'll update you on Facebook and on Discord, and
Yeah.
we'll see where we go from there.
Awesome. Well, we're having a lot of fun. We
Yeah.
hope you guys are enjoying them. Please
Absolutely.
feel free to, share the Facebook page or to share the podcast or the YouTube. Anytime you guys like and share, that just helps. And like I said, we're just doing this for fun, so it's not
Absolutely.
the
We're
end of the
just
world.
goofing
But
out.
the more people that come on and we can interact with, the more entertaining it'll
Yeah,
be
and
for
we're really
everybody.
looking forward to when we have a few more people chatting live in the chat. Obviously, during the podcast part of the episode where we're discussing it back and forth, we're not looking at the chat. That's sort of for you guys to talk back and forth if you want to, and then we're gonna kind of like what we did here,
We'll dig
loop
into
back
it at the end.
and at the end we'll read back some comments and thoughts on what the episode was and how it all went. So we certainly appreciate you guys' feedback. I will be rendering the video and the podcast sometime tonight. They should be up tomorrow, I hope. So feel free to share it
And
at
we'll
that
get all
point.
the videos and all the photos updated as well. So, all right. Well,
We're going to mute, and then I'm going to change the scene manually because shit doesn't work.
well,
And then we'll just be signing off from that point.
sounds good. You guys have a great night.
Yep.
Thank you very much. And I hope that your shorts stay Dookie free.
Oh, God. We have a fucking sign off.
Bye, guys.
Bye.